What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through the ultimate guide to the upcoming double game week 22. So an exciting double game week, especially if you guys own that triple up of these United assets, but is it good enough to actually use the triple captaincy chip? Don't worry, I'll be discussing that chip at the end of this video, probably the main talking point out of this ultimate guide, but don't worry, more content will also be coming. We've got the stats review as well as some question marks about whether you should do KDB to Bruno Fernandes. So I'll be covering those points in kind of a chronological order. If you guys are new to the ultimate guide, don't worry, kind of a good video of discussing talking points. And if you guys have any question marks about these or other talking points, drop them in the comments down below on my Discord server and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Now if these talking points are of interest to you, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into them. Now the first talking point, and a pretty big one, is going to be all about blank game week 25. If you guys have been following the League Cup, the second leg of the semi-finals will be taking place tonight as you guys are watching this video, and then also tomorrow as United take on Nottingham Forest. So the reason why these League Cup games are so integral to blank game week 25 is because the final is going to be taking place in game week 25, and therefore the two teams in the final will have blank fixtures. So right now it looks like United and Newcastle should be progressing. I'm not kind of writing off Southampton and Nottingham Forest, but the former two teams did win the first leg and therefore they are predicted to kind of go to the final. Now United have a blank game week and therefore Newcastle do, and the big thing about the Newcastle blank is they were facing Brighton, therefore your Brighton assets are probably blank as well. Now the reason why I'm talking about this right now is that obviously those two games are happening in the future, tonight and tomorrow night as you guys are watching this video, but I'll be creating a chip strategy video quite shortly. So keep your eyes on this, but just make sure that you're not kind of tripling up on those United assets, and then come game week 25, you don't have a full starting 11. Now going on to the first big talking point of our ultimate guide, I always like to go over the stats. I'm quite a stats-based manager, and therefore as you guys have watched these ultimate guide videos, you'll know that we go over the attacking and the defensive stats. Now I've actually changed this up. I went over to fantasyfootballfix.com, went to their Opta Stats sandbox, and took screenshots directly from there, so I do apologize if the graphics aren't up to scratch like the usual ultimate guides. So we're going to start off with actually the defensive stats first before the attacking stats. We usually go over the attacking stats first, but I want to give a shout out to the defense. And the first talking point is going to be all about the best defenses. Now a new addition to the stats review is I'll be going over the left hand screenshot will be over the entire FPL season, whereas the right hand side screenshot will be over the last 6 game weeks. Now because we have had some blanks and some doubles over the past 6 game weeks, those will be the last 6/7 game weeks, but these are going to be per game stats. So the reason why I went over 6/7 over 5/6 is because obviously more data is always better, but as said earlier on, these will be kind of averaged as per game stats. So let's go over the entire season. On the left hand side, you can see that Arsenal's defense has been the best defense of the season with 0.81 XG conceded per game. The rest of the teams follow Man City, Newcastle, West Ham United and Chelsea, so all these defenses are pretty reliable for those clean sheets. Now if we navigate to the last 6/7 games, we've got Newcastle up top with a significantly better defense than the entire season. So massive 0.51 XG conceded per game is really great, especially when you consider the fact that the second team has 0.91. Now Newcastle obviously might have faced some easier opposition, that's why I never like to go over the last 6 or 7 game weeks because that is quite fixture dependent, but it's nice to see if you guys want to triple up or double up on that Newcastle defense. Other than that, we have Arsenal, Brentford, Chelsea, United, and then finally Man City, rounding up the last 6 game weeks. Now what this talking point means is that if you guys are looking for some defenses to go for, definitely look at these defenses, or if your attackers are facing these defenses, the chance of an attacking return is probably not that likely. But now go on to the worst defenses in the Prem over the entire season. On the left hand side, we've got Fulham with 1.8 XG conceded per game. We then have Everton, Liverpool. I know, yes, Liverpool just shows you that the defense has been terrible this FPL season. We then have Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and then finally Bournemouth. Now if we choose to go over the last 6 to 7 game weeks, you're going to see yet again Liverpool appearing, which just shows you it's kind of a recent form thing as well. Also a little bit weird to see Spurs there, but they have just faced Man City and also Arsenal. But over the last 6 to 7 game weeks, the worst defense is going to be that Everton defense, as well as the Leeds or Leicester defense. Also Fulham appearing there on both the left and the right hand side, so if your attackers are facing Fulham, they could be in for a haul. So unlike the previous talking point, don't target these defenses, rather target the attackers facing these defenses, as the chance of a haul is looking pretty likely. Now going on to the attacking stat, and my attacking stat of choice is going to be XG non-penalty. You guys know that I never like to go for the penalty stat, as penalties aren't that kind of consistent. So this will be the non-penalty metric. So on the left hand side, over the entire season, the best attack is going to be that Man City attack with 1.9 XG per game. Liverpool and Arsenal come in a close second, and then we have Brighton, Newcastle and United with quite a drop off. Then over the last 6 to 7 game weeks, Man City yet again number 1, with United in a close second. Arsenal, Liverpool, Brighton and then finally Brentford are kind of predictable, as these attacks have been red hot over these last couple of game weeks. Now you guys can see in terms of that double game week coming up, we have United with great attacking stats recently, and that's why triple Captaincy chip could be played on a Rashford or Bruno Fernandes. It's quite hard to see that Liverpool are yet again appearing over the last 6 or 7 as well as over the entire season as the second best attack, as they simply haven't been producing those FPL outputs recently. Now going to the worst attack, these are definitely sides to target from a defensive point of view, so if you have defenders facing them, the chance of a clean sheet is going to be pretty good. Over the entire season, Bournemouth come in worst with 0.8 XG per game, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Leicester and Everton up next. Then on the right hand side, over the last 6 or 7 game weeks, you have Crystal Palace. So if you guys do still own a Wilfried Zaha, he is injured at the current moment, but definitely a sell, probably not for one of his teammates. Then we have Everton, Wolves, Southampton, West Ham and finally Bournemouth, but I can't see too many FPL managers actually going for these attackers. Over the entire kind of stats review, from best to worst, in terms of the attack and the defense, these are kind of teams to target from a defensive and attacking point of view, depending on which stat you guys look at. But now going to another talking point that has been heavily debated over this upcoming double game week 22, and it's going to be all about the transfer plan. Now the transfer I'm obviously talking about is going to be the De Bruyne to Bruno Fernandes transfer. What most managers actually want to do here is they want to do this transfer this week, then next week reverse it, so you bring KDB back in for that double game week 23 for Man City. So on screen right now, you guys can see the fixtures. We have Spurs this week for in game week 22, which is why most managers actually want to swipe out for that lovely Crystal Palace and Leeds home double game week for Manchester United. You're kind of getting the best of both worlds or the best of both Manchester sides. You're getting a lovely double game week in 22, then a nice double game week in 23 for Man City. Now is the switcheroo actually worth it in terms of FPL? Well, I'm going to kind of help you out, give you guys some logic of my opinions, and also present you some projected points. So what I will tell you guys, if you are a conservative manager, I would say that I probably would go against this transfer. And the reason for that is that you are using 2 free transfers to actually make it. You might not think that, but you are using 1 free transfer from De Bruyne to Bruno Fernandes, then another one next week from Bruno Fernandes to Kevin De Bruyne. Now with these blank game weeks coming up, especially blank game week 25, some popular options there, Newcastle, United, probably having a blank in that game week might not be the best plan to actually use 2 free transfers when you could be actually preparing for that blank. But what I would say justifies doing this transfer is that if you guys do want to captain Bruno instead of maybe someone like a Rashford, I think that's a fine move to do. I think that captaining a player that you transfer in is always going to make it worth it. But that's probably the only reason why I would actually do this move. Now what I will show you guys now is going to be the projected points over the next 2 game weeks from Fantasy Football Fix, and this might help you guys logic it out. So on the left hand side, you can see that KDB is projected to score 4.9 points in double game week 22, and then in double game week 23 is projected to score 9.7. Then in terms of Bruno Fernandes, double game week 22 obviously has those 2 fixtures, unlike Kevin De Bruyne's 1, and he's projected to score 10 points. Then moving on to double game week 23, Bruno Fernandes only has 1 fixture, that's going to be 4.6. So as you guys can see, in terms of the projected points, very close between these 2 assets, and that's why when you incorporate the cost of 2 transfers, I don't think it's worth it. But here's where you kind of factor in Bruno Fernandes. If you want to captain him, if you think he's going to score more than Rashford, equate how much more you're hoping that he'll score, and that should be more than those 2 free transfers. Now obviously, what is the cost of a free transfer? It's very situational, and if you guys don't have anything else to do, your team's looking fine for blank game week 25, and you have your transfer plan set out, then obviously you can be a bit more risky with those transfers. But I think for the majority of managers, this transfer isn't worth it, as they're probably going to captain Rashford anyways. So my kind of conclusion to this is that if you want to captain Bruno Fernandes, then go for it. If your team is looking fine for blank game week 25, you have a ton of transfers to spare, then maybe, but I think for the majority of us, this isn't worth it. Now I want to kind of pitch to you guys a different scenario because this is going to exclude the switcheroos. So we're cutting the talking point of kind of going from Kevin De Bruyne to Bruno and then back. I want to talk you guys through a different transfer plan. So one of the reasons why I think that you guys might be wanting to do this move is that if you don't want to actually get Kevin De Bruyne back for double game week 23 and rather want to go for his colleague Riyad Mahrez. So what I'm saying there is, for example, let's go Kevin De Bruyne to Bruno Fernandes. That gives you a little bit of funds. You can upgrade another midfielder. For example, in my own team, I own a Mason Mount. I could upgrade Mason Mount to a Mahrez if I think that Mahrez is a better asset than Kevin De Bruyne. So in that situation, if you guys do want to go for another asset, maybe a Foden, I wouldn't probably go for him. But if you want to go for a Grealish or a Mahrez, Mahrez is definitely the top of the pile. I think in my opinion that move is worth it as long as you think that Mahrez outperforms Kevin De Bruyne over that double game week 23. So to go over that plan again, if your plan is not to bring Kevin De Bruyne back in for game week 23, it's to downgrade him to Bruno Fernandes using those funds to upgrade to a Mahrez next week, I think that's worth it in my opinion. But it's going to be super close between De Bruyne and Mahrez in terms of projected points. But projected points are always cautious, and I think Mahrez is in better form at the current moment. But you guys can let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think that De Bruyne switcheroo to Bruno Fernandes and back again is worth it? Or like myself, do you think the Mahrez move might be slightly more attractive? Now the final talking point is going to be all about captaincy. I'll be going over which captain to go for in double game week 22. Should you triple captain on a United asset this week, or is Erling Haaland a better asset next week? So let's go over the double game week 22 Captaincy. So this will be kind of the non-triple Captaincy, the pure double points. And I think obviously you'll be going for United asset. The first asset is going to be the main one to go for. The safest option is going to be Rashford. But the second option will definitely be more differential. That's going to be Bruno Fernandes. So as you guys can see, Crystal Palace leads on paper a double game week of absolute dreams there. Not the best double game week fixtures, but definitely the best one we've had this Premier League season. And that's why I think you have to go for United asset. Now between these two, as I've mentioned, the safe option is definitely going to be Marcus Rashford, and the reason for that is I'm going to put it on screen right now. In terms of the top 100k ownership as of game week 21, Rashford was owned by just below 95% of them. In terms of Bruno, 8.34% of the top 100k owned Bruno as of game week 21. Now the reason I'm saying as of game week 21 is obviously we can only have the ownership stats of the previous game week, and I really expect the ownerships of both these two options to increase come that game week 22's deadline. Now it is slightly hard to predict what Bruno Fernandes' ownership will be, but if it'll be lower than Marcus Rashford. Now what I want to kind of post here is that in terms of differential Captaincy, I'm actually really tempted by going for Bruno Fernandes, and the reason for that is on screen right now is in terms of projected points. So Marcus Rashford is projected to score 11.1 according to Fix, and Bruno Fernandes is expected to score 10. Now in my opinion, that 1 point difference might actually be worth the risk of going for a differential captain when the margins are going to be so high. Another added fact is that with the triple Captaincy, I wouldn't be surprised to see Marcus Rashford at over 200%, and what that effective ownership means is that if you didn't triple captain him, any points he scores is going to be negative against yourself. So why kind of back a captain that's going to get you negative points anyway? It's obviously going to be kind of risk aversion. The more points you're still catching up on. Whereas if you went for Bruno Fernandes and Rashford hauls, your red arrow is probably going to be pretty strong. But I don't know why, I might just have a feeling about Bruno Fernandes in this double game week. I might actually want to go for the Captaincy, but I would say if you guys want to play it safe, go for Marcus Rashford. But I do think this is a better opportunity than going for Kevin De Bruyne versus Haaland in game week 20. But I know we've kind of spoken about the normal Captaincy or the average Captaincy. Let's go over the triple Captaincy and whether it's worth it to do it this week or next week. Now I will say that if I was to use the triple captain, I would use it on Marcus Rashford. I think it's a safe option to go for. He's definitely the Man United player in form at the current moment, and he has great double game week fixtures. Now in terms of him or Erling Haaland, who I do think should be your triple captain if you don't do it this week, that's obviously going to be in game week 23, which is next game week. Now in terms of the fixture debate, definitely the United side of things has the better fixtures. Crystal Palace and Leeds at home is a lot better than Aston Villa at home, but Arsenal away. But this is where it comes down to kind of the player versus the fixtures, because in terms of a player, I think that Erling Haaland is probably the best FPL asset we've had in the game, especially over the last couple of seasons. So in terms of the debate between going for fixtures or the player, I think this is narrowly edging towards going for maybe an Erling Haaland because he's just much more consistent. Now in these debates, we always like to go for the stats, so what I will say is that if you guys kind of rewind, you would have shown that United and Man City both have great attacks over the entire season, but also over the last 6 or 7 game weeks. In terms of the individual stats, I don't think Erling Haaland will yet again come out trumps, just because he is an absolute anomaly. But let's look over the projected points. According to Fix, Marcus Rashford is expected to obviously score 11.1, whereas next week Erling Haaland is projected to score 12.6. So if you guys kind of live by projected points, you will see that Erling Haaland is the better triple Captaincy option, but I think it's pretty close between these two, to be honest. In terms of my own opinion, what you guys are probably wanting, I think that it would be very tempting to actually use the triple captain this week, as the fixtures for me are so good, and as you guys know, I'm a fixture FPL manager. I think the Arsenal game next week for Man City, as well as the quick turnaround between the fixtures, might be a slight deterrent to actually going for them. Now what I will say is that Wednesday night fixture against Nottingham Forest is going to be a big one. If Marcus Rashford is rested, I think it's even better for him, because that probably means he's going to start both games and play the majority of minutes. So make sure that you guys are watching that Wednesday night fixture. If he is rested, I would say the triple captain would be active, but unfortunately I used mine on Erling Haaland in game week 20 for 8 points. But let me know what you guys think, not only in terms of Captaincy, in terms of triple Captaincy. If you guys still had the chip, when would you use it? I think I probably would use it this week, but because I don't have the chip, I might actually go for a Bruno Fernandes as a differential. But let me know who you guys are going for on a triple captain, also on a normal Captaincy. But this is basically a wrap of the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you didn't subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for a strategy guide on the chips, as well as my team selection coming up probably on Thursday. But I'm going to sign off Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.